In today's video, I'm going to be giving you a complete beginner's guide to the Create mod. Now, I'm going to be going through pretty much everything inside of the Create mod, or as many different concepts as possible, and I'm going to try and split it up into chapters, so if there's something you already know, or you just want to skip to something else, then you can go and skip through it into different sections. So, let's get right into it. First things first, you want to probably go ahead and get yourself some of these engineer's goggles, and essentially what these do, it allows you to see how much power something's producing, how much power something needs, and it also allows you to diagnose issues with your different things. And you can go ahead and craft them, string, glass, and then a gold plate there. And you can go ahead and just put it on your person. You put it on the helmet slot, and that's going to go ahead and wear them. And it's very, very useful when you're doing builds. So I'd recommend starting off and getting one of those. Now, one of the first things you're going to need to do in the Create mod, or one of the core materials, is Andesite alloy. And this is also used to create andesite casing, which is basically the starter blocks for a lot of the different sort of items inside of the Create mod. And there's a few ways you can go ahead and make andesite alloy. So you can either use zinc nuggets or iron nuggets alongside andesite, and you can go ahead and put it into a crafting table. And you want to do it just like this, and that's going to go ahead and give you andesite alloy. So you can see it's just the cross pattern, and it's the same if you want to change those out with zinc nuggets. Depends what you have more of. You can go ahead and craft them, put them into your inventory like that. You can also make them more efficiently inside of a mechanical mixer and a basin, but that's slightly more down the road. Now, andesite alloy in itself can be used for lots of different materials. For example, if you put one above each other, then you're going to get a shaft. These are pretty useful. But there's a lot of different uses for it. There's basically tons here that you can go ahead and use. But one of the other things you're going to need to use it for is creating the andesite casing. Now, to go ahead and do that, you want to find a log that's on the floor, just like this. You want to right click it and strip it. And then we can go over to the case, or to the stripped oak here, right click on it, and it's going to go ahead and turn into the casing, which you can then go ahead and mine. So that's the basic level of how to go ahead and get andesite casing. It's pretty time consuming, as you're obviously going to have to do it, you know, one by one. But yeah, it's just not super advanced, which is good. So you can do it pretty easily. It's just time consuming. Now, I would also recommend alongside the Create mod to have something like this, like just enough items, not enough items. Basically one of these sort of mods which allows you to see all the items and the recipes. This is just really useful, as you can go and type in what you want and it will give you the recipe for it. And you can also hover over an item on the hot bar here. So let's say this mechanical mixer. We can look at the recipes. We can also look at the uses by using the U button. So hover over it and press U. This will basically tell you recipes that you can use it in here. And also, if you hover over it with W and hold W, there's going to be this ponder section. So ponder allows you to see how it all works and how you can build it together. So this is very, very useful. And I recommend getting this because it means that you don't have to keep looking things up. You can just do it inside of the game. So let's cover some of the basic power sources, so to speak. So there's a lot of different power sources that we can actually go ahead and use. Some of them require a lot of materials, and some of them are very easy and early game. I'd say that the best starter game energy source is to use a water wheel. Now, you can go ahead and get yourself a hand crank, but the problem with this is that it's manual, and it also is pretty much as expensive as a water wheel. It's just not very useful, really. It's good for getting machines started if you just need to place it somewhere, but I'd recommend this if you're trying to power some kind of machine. So the way that a water wheel works, it's quite simple. You just need to go ahead and place it sort of like this. And then you want to go ahead and make sure there's running water going below it. So if I go ahead and do this like here, and I place water here, you can see the flowing water is making it turn. Now make sure it's flowing water. If it's still water, it's not going to go ahead and work. So this is the most basic sort of power source here. And you can see when I look at it, it tells me the generator stats. The reason it tells me that is because I'm wearing these goggles, which is why I recommended them. And you can see here, it's producing something called SU, which is stress units, I believe. So it's got 256 here. And what we can do from here is we can go ahead and get a shaft, connect it, and the shaft is now going to go ahead and rotate alongside this. So that is like the most basic power source you can sort of get. Now something that's cool which you can do with the water wheel is you can go ahead and you can basically stack them next to each other to combine their power. So if you wanted to extend this out by a few blocks like this, and let me just remove that. If I wanted to place a load of them next to each other like this, all of their power is going to combine. So it's not just going to be 256, it's going to be 256 times by 5. So let me give you the example. If I was to go ahead and fill this in here, and then go ahead and put the water down, you can see now they're all spinning and they're all producing that much. They're all producing 256 each. Now you have to make sure the water is flowing in one direction. If not, you can see there it's broken it because it's getting flowed with two different streams of water. So make sure the water is all flowing in the one direction there. There we go. And what we can do is we can get this item here called a stressometer. You don't need to get it. I just want to show the example. I can go ahead and place it next to these, and you can see it's producing 1,280 stress units across all of those. So yeah, you can combine them together, which is pretty useful. Now something else you can also do is there is also a large water wheel. So the large water wheel is the same concept, it's just a bit bigger, and that means it's going to produce more energy. So you can see I've gone ahead and placed it now, and it's a lot bigger, as you can see. It kind of looks a bit better than this. I'd say you can use this in some kind of builds. And this produces double. So this produces 512. This is 256. So it's going to give you double the amount of stress units there. So it's pretty good. And again, if we want to go ahead and just test this out with the stressometer, we can see that these are now producing the same as these over here. So this is really the most basic way you can go ahead and generate power, is with those. And something else that's pretty cool is you can go ahead and actually put the water wheel on its side here. You're just going to have to make sure that the water only flows in one direction, which I don't even know how I do that. But you can make it work. I guess you'd have to have some kind of... yeah, that works there. So it can work on its side as well, and it works exactly the same. And you can go ahead and add a shaft to it. And you can add a shaft to this as well. Now another early game sort of power generation is by creating a windmill. And you can create windmills either facing upwards or like a traditional one. So if you wanted to build it up like this, you can go ahead and build it like this. But the way you build it, the recipe is very simple for a windmill bearing. You need a shaft, some kind of stone, and some kind of slab. That's a windmill bearing there. And then from there, we have to go ahead and attach a block to it. It doesn't matter what kind of block it is. To the sticky side, so you're going to see it's sticky on that side. And then you need to go ahead and get these windmill sails, which can be made like this. And we need to go ahead and attach at least 8 of them to the windmill here. So we can just do it out like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now once you place it, it's not going to start automatically. You have to look at the windmill bearing here and right click it with a open hand, and it's going to start spinning. Now you can see it's spinning very, very slowly. This is because by default it is going to spin very slowly, but the more sails you go ahead and add to it, the faster it's going to go ahead and spin. So if I just went and added like a few more here, it's going to spin a lot faster. But as you can see, it's slightly inconvenient as it gets bigger. But you can build yourself a nice sort of traditional looking windmill, which would fit very well. But you can see now this is reducing 1,536 SU. This one's got 512. Each of these has 512. So you can see these are some early game ones you can go ahead and do. But yeah, how do we go ahead and use this power now? Well, the very basics of it are, on the side of each sort of power source, you're going to have a little bit of shaft that's sticking out. You can attach another shaft to that, and you can go ahead and put this straight into a machine. But generally, your machines are going to probably not be next to this. So there's a few things you can do about that. Now, the first thing you can do is attach a cogwheel. And a cogwheel allows you to go sideways, so you can see I'm now building sideways with this, and I've now turned the power from this block to put it on this block. Something else you can do is you can attach large cogwheels to small ones here, just like that. But you can't attach large cogwheels to large cogwheels. There's no way to do that. You can do large and small together. You can do small and small, but you can't do large and large together. And a cool little trick about this is you can go ahead and you can basically increase the power of your cogwheels, or you can increase the speed of it with using cogs like this. So the base premise is that you go ahead and you get a small cog, and then you attach a big cog to the front of it, and on the side of that you have a small one, which then goes ahead and speeds it up. You place a big one on top of that, connect it to a small one, and you can keep going and going in this way, and you can see that the cogs are getting much faster. Let's see if I can place another one here. There we go. So you can see this one here, we started off at this speed here, and now we're at this speed. And this is useful because some things require you to have a high RPM, and this is a very simple start game way to basically increase the RPM and the rotation speed of it, really. Now let's say that you have your cogs or your shafts facing this way, but you want to power something facing upwards like this. You can go ahead and easily change the direction by connecting two large cogwheels on different directions. So what I mean is this one's facing this way. I can go ahead and place one on the floor here, and this one now is making power go the other way. I think I need to attach another one to it here. So you can see now the power has gone from going horizontal to vertical, and that's just a very simple base or simple start way to change the direction of it. An easier way to change the direction like that is by using a vertical gearbox. The way that this works is you attach it to a shaft, and this is going to give you options to put a shaft out the top or out the side like this. And if you want to go ahead and turn the way of the power left and right, you can use a regular gearbox. So you have vertical gearbox and you have regular gearbox, meaning I can now make it turn a 90-degree angle and go in a different direction. So those are the ways you can basically change the direction without having to use a really in-depth cog system for it. Something I will quickly say is if you are experimenting with the create mod inside of creative, you can go ahead and get this thing called a creative motor. This is basically going to give you unlimited power, and you can increase the RPM and stuff like that, just so you don't have to be making, you know, tons of machines for it. So I can increase it like this just to test things out. So let's say that we have our power source over here, and we have one machine that's all the way over here, and we have one machine that's all the way over here, and we need to go ahead and power them. Well, what we can do is we can go ahead and use a thing called a belt. And the way that a belt works is if we line it up here, the end of that shaft, and put another shaft here, we can go ahead, get this belt block here, right click on one of them, right click to the other one, and you've now got a belt which goes across here, and this is going to go ahead and power this shaft. So now I've moved the power across here just like that, and I can go ahead and I can actually drop items onto the belt as well, but I'll kind of get a bit more into that later. We can also do the same thing if we want to go higher up. So let's say that we actually want to power something that's on a few floors up. We can go ahead, put a shaft there, and then we can put a belt and a belt, and now we've got that powered up like that. And yeah, I don't know if the items will stick to that on the side, but yeah, that's how you can transport the power in different directions, just like that. And one more thing I should add is you can actually do this diagonally as well. Well, you should be able to. We're usually able to do it diagonally. I think I might have done it too high or something like that. But yeah, this is a pretty useful one where you can change the height and the direction at the same time. So that should work. I'm not sure why it's not right now. Now, something else that's pretty cool that you can do is you can get yourself a gear shift here. And the way that a gear shift works is that you can change the direction that that is spinning, basically. So if I go ahead and just put a cog on here, can see it's going anti-clockwise. If I go ahead, put a lever on the gear shift and select it, it's now rotating the other way. So this is useful in case you have something that needs to go back and forth, for example. It's just a pretty useful one there, and it also yeah, it just works in other directions too. And then lastly, here we have a clutch, and the clutch works in the same way as the gear shift, except when you turn it on or off, it's just going to stop or start it, just like this. And this will basically save power or save stress units in the system, because obviously you're only going to have 512 to work with, or whatever you've got from your power source. And if you go over that with your machines, then you are going to, the system's basically going to slow down or stop working. So if you need to turn something off, you can do this, and it's just pretty useful for limiting machines at a time. I guess another way you could use a gear shift or a clutch even is just by kind of braking it, but if you want some kind of automated system, then this is the best way to go about that. So at this point, I want to show you how to create a really good early game power source, which is super powerful, and it's going to go ahead and pretty much infinitely power itself. So it's very simple, and the first thing you're going to need is campfires, and you can use as many as you want. I'm just going to use 4, and then we're going to go ahead on top of that and use a fluid tank, I believe it's called. So a fluid tank here, just like this, and we're going to go ahead and put the fluid tanks above the campfires. Now we have the campfires because this is going to basically heat up the fluid tanks, and that's going to produce steam. And for that, we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a steam engine, which looks like this here. And we're going to attach that onto the top here. This is kind of built like a multi-block. Now on top of that, you can go ahead and put a shaft, and this is going to be like a sort of handle for it, I guess you could say. Now next to this, you want to go ahead and use the vertical gearbox I spoke about earlier. This is going to change the direction. And then down here you want to place 3 of these, and then you want a large cogwheel like this. Now next to that, we're going to be using an item called a mechanical pump. We want it to be facing down like this, and we want the arrow facing up. Then we're going to go ahead and get ourselves a fluid pipe and connect that into the fluid tank here. Now another tip is that you can use a wrench, I believe it's called, this one here. And the wrench allows you to go ahead and rotate the direction of things. So if it's facing the wrong way, you can right click it and rotate the direction. So I'm going to go ahead now and just dig 3 holes under here. I'm going to grab myself some water, and I'm going to create an infinite water source there. I'm going to go ahead now and just fill this up with water, and it should start rotating. My apologies, actually. You need to build this 1 block out. So I had it 1 block too far in. You want it out here. And then when you put the water in here, this is going to heat up because of this. And then you can see it goes into the gearbox, which turns this. And this basically pulls the water out of here and puts it back in an infinite cycle. And this here is going to produce us a decent amount of energy here. Let me go get a... So you can see this here is going to produce us 1920 stress units available to work with, and it's just a pretty easy one. And basically the more that you expand this as well, the more power you're going to get. So this is a really simple one that you can go ahead and create, which will just give you infinite power, and it's pretty condensed and all that kind of stuff. So moving on to some of the more cool stuff, here is how we can go ahead and use a belt. So the chances are you're probably trying to make some kind of factory that uses the belt. So let me kind of explain how you can use this for a few different ways. So first of all, if we go ahead and put a hopper at the end of the belt, this is going to drop items off the belt into the hopper. Let's go ahead and put this on here, for example. This is going to go and drop into the hopper just like this. And what we can do obviously is we can go ahead and put a chest underneath. And if we drop the item on, obviously it's going to go through the hopper and into the chest just like this. Now something else we can also do is we can put the hopper underneath the belt, I believe. So it should pull it out of there, and it should now be in the chest. So that's another use of it, and it's pretty useful there. But something else that's kind of similar to the hopper is the chute. Now this is part of the create mod, and the way that the chute works is it will go ahead and drop items out of it, and it's going to be like a hopper but faster. So I can go ahead into this hopper here, and I can go grab myself a stack of this, the chute here, and if I drop this into here, what it's going to do is it's going to drop the items out of it. So if I put a chest on top of it, and inside I put these oaks, this is going to go ahead and drop them onto the conveyor belt, and you can see that it's dropped all of them in like a matter of seconds. So this is just a cool way to drop things onto the conveyor belt. Now also I believe if I put a chest at the end here, I'm going to try this now, I believe this will just go into the chest, although it might not. Yeah, it does. So let me take the hopper out and see again. Okay, so you're going to need a hopper at the end of it. It won't go directly into the chest. But that does bring me on to funnels. A funnel is actually a really cool thing you can use here. So let's say I've got a chest here. I'll place it here. I can go ahead and put a funnel. And the funnel is going to... I can put it here. And the funnel is basically going to be an input, or it can be an output into a storage. So just like that, you can see that when I place this on here, it goes through the funnel doors, makes a really cool animation, and it goes into here. So if I wanted to, I could drop these in here like this, and then it's going to go through there, through the funnel into the chest like that. Now with a funnel you can also attach it straight to a chest, and it's going to be able to output items. So you can see there's an arrow on the side of it. This means it's going to drop items out there. So if I go ahead and put an item in, it's going to go ahead and drop it out there, and it's going to go ahead and do this one at a time, which is pretty useful. So you can see that there. I can go ahead and I can do this onto the conveyor belt here, and you can also put the funnel a different direction. So I can put it below, I can put it above, just like that. So if I put it below and I put my stack of logs in it, it's going to go ahead and drop it. And I believe something else that it does is, yeah, so if it gets backlogged here, it's going to stop dropping it. So that's pretty useful. It's not going to keep dropping them and spamming items over and over again if there's no availability. So I can go ahead and add these funnels here, and it's going to drop them out of there, go across the conveyor belt into this funnel, and that's going to go into the chest there, which is pretty cool. And you can use the wrench again just to right click on the funnel, and that's going to change the direction of it. So you can see this is now an input rather than an output, and I can do this on any direction of the chest here. So that's a really cool feature to transport items, and honestly it just looks really cool if you're trying to build some kind of factory. Now as we said earlier, you can't go ahead and stick an item to a belt that's vertical. So if you wanted to move items up or down, there is actually a very cool workaround you can use, which uses the chutes that we've just mentioned here. So I can go ahead and put some chutes here, just like this, and I can go ahead and just attach, I'll just attach my funnel here actually. Now what we can use here is something called an encased fan, and the encased fan works by basically blowing air in a direction, and you can see this is facing up, the arrow is facing up, which means it's going to blow air up, which means that anything that goes into this chute is going to travel upwards. Again, you have to go ahead and power this here, but a really cool workaround to power it is I can go ahead, put a shaft here, put a vertical gearbox here, another shaft here, and I can go ahead and connect the belts together like this. So it's just taking power from this belt. It's very compact. And now this is going to be powering the fan here, and if you look at the top, you're going to see it's like blowing air out the top, and this basically is going to shoot the sort of items out the top just like that. So this is a great way to move items up, so I could move it up quite a lot actually. Let's say I wanted to move it here, and then I can go ahead and I can use the, let's say I want to use this, I can go ahead, put the items in. That should go ahead now and take them out of here, shoot them up here, and drop them out here. So it's a really cool system. As you can see, it's a little bit slow, but you can see it's a really cool system for changing levels vertically, and it just looks pretty cool overall. So yeah, that's a really cool feature of it. Something else that's very cool that you can do with this, if you right click on each of the chutes, you can expose the center so you can see like the wood flying through here out there, so it's really cool. And you can also go ahead with the fan and you can shoot them the other way if you wanted to, although you can just use gravity for that, but there are uses for the fan shooting down in case you want to. But you see this looks pretty good. Now while we're on the topic of these fans here, there is actually some pretty cool things you can do with them. So I'm going to be using an encased drive here, and this works similar to a belt, except you can attach things to every single part of it. So I can, power every single row here. And I'm going to show you basically a few uses of these fans. So first of all, if I put them this way, this is going to suck things in. So you can use this to sort of move enemies around. And if we want to go ahead and change the direction they blow, you need to change the direction of the sort of things here. So you see this is going clockwise. Clockwise will suck, and then anti-clockwise should blow out. And I'm just using this gearbox to change the direction here. So you see this is now blowing away. And what we can do with the fans is we can use these to process different items. So if I just disconnect this really quickly, I'll show you how you can do this. So in front of each fan, we can go ahead and put different materials. So essentially what I've done here is I have gone ahead and I've put the 4 things we can do here. So we can use a campfire, we can use water, we can use a soul campfire, and we can use lava. Now the way this works is you can turn these fans on, and it's going to give you particle effects by blowing through those materials. So if I put the gearbox back on now, you can see there's a different effect coming out of each of them. And these can be used for different things. So the campfire can be used for going ahead and cooking food. So if I get like raw beef, for example, I can go ahead and I can bulk cook the food. I need to go ahead and actually put an end to this so they don't blow off. So the first one is going to be smoking technically. If I go ahead and I place them down, I'll be able to basically do it in bulk, which is a really efficient way of doing it. And you can see here, this has now turned into a cooked beef. Over here on the lava, I can use cobblestone or anything, and I can use this to smelt things. So I believe I can even do this with like ore and stuff. So if I got like iron ore, I don't know if you can still smelt iron ore. Let me do cobblestone instead. If I grab the cobblestone here, place it in here, this is going to go ahead and smelt it, and it will turn it into stone eventually. Now the water is going to turn your item into something else. So here we could use something like gravel, and we could go ahead and throw our gravel in here. That's going to go ahead and convert into something else, and this is going to use magic to turn your item into something else. So we could use something like sand, and go ahead and do that. Now I believe if you go ahead and hover over the item, so for example the sand, you'll be able to see somewhere along here what you can turn it into. So I think it's called, yeah, for example with bulk washing, you can turn the sand into clay, for example. But you can look at the campfire, and possibly with the campfire you can see what you can use it for. Soul campfire, haunting. I don't know, there's no recipes there, but you can just turn it into a few different things by doing that essentially. So you can see that's turned my sand into netherrack. But yeah, that's basically, you can go ahead and do that with those, which is pretty useful. Now inside of the create mod, there are a ton of different machines you can go ahead and use. If I show you over here, you have basically loads of machines. You've got mechanical press, you have basically all of these. So you've got your harvester, you've got your plow, mechanical saw, drill, deployer. I think we've covered those ones. Mixer. You've got all of these different ones you can go ahead and connect up. I'm not going to go into detail about how all of the different machinery works, because it's relatively easy to figure out, and you can just kind of experiment with them to see if you get your desired results. But the next thing you've got inside of the create mod is you have your trains. So you've got your train tracks and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go through this. First of all, you can go ahead and just place your train tracks down like this. But if you want to, you can go ahead and just click on the rail here. You can step far out and you can go ahead and actually just walk to a location and place it. Now you can see this is quite a curved track here. If I go ahead and hold left control, it's going to smooth out the track as much as it can. So if you just want to smooth it for some kind of reason, rather than it being an aggressive turn, you can do that. And what I can do is I can just right click there and it's going to go ahead and connect the track all up there. You can also go ahead and connect your track up hills, so you can't go too steep. I believe like this will be too steep or just enough. But I can go ahead and I can click on here, click there like that, and that's going to go up there. You can also, which is pretty cool, when you're building tracks up and stuff, you can use blocks in your offhand to build the track. So I could put any item offhand, but an item that I want to use is called a so the item here is called a metal girder, like this, and I can put this in my offhand. This is pretty cool. So what this does is it will build track it will build like a frame underneath the track. So let's say I want to just build my stuff across here. With this in my offhand, it's going to use this underneath, and you can see it's built underneath. And I can do this with blocks as well. So if I wanted to use stone, I could go ahead and do that. I just have to put the stone in my offhand, and I can go ahead, connect up the track here, and now it's got stone underneath. So this is pretty cool. It also works on slopes. It looks a little bit janky if you use like blocks, so I just use the girder for that. And I can basically go ahead now and connect up the whole track to make a full like railway, I guess you could say. So I'll just go ahead and connect this up here in one big loop, and I'll show you how to set up the trains on it now. Okay, so here I now have my track, and to go ahead and put a train onto it, we first need to get ourselves something called a train station. And this block over here, the way it works is you want to right click on the track, and you can see there's an arrow. This is going to be the direction of the travel trains. So let's say I want to go this way. I'll right click there and I can go ahead and place the block. So this block here is now connected up here. And if you want to see a more in-depth video about trains, I will have one on the channel, just so you know. But now what I can do from here is inside of here I can rename this, or I can go ahead and create a new train. And I can do that, and I'm going to have to use a train casing. So I need to go ahead and get a train casing, one of these. And I need to go ahead and place it on the track. I think I need to... For some reason that wasn't working, so I had to replace the train station. But basically you should place it and be able to press that button. And then there should be like a marking on the track here where you can place your train casing. And this is going to make your train. So we can build around this block in the center with anything like this. And we can go ahead and add controls if we want to. Controls are going to allow us to operate the train. Okay, there we go. And we can also go ahead and add this thing called a blaze burner. And a blaze burner will allow the train to move automatically. Now once we're happy with the train, we're going to have to go ahead and get ourselves some super glue. Or I think it's called glue. Super glue here. We need to right click on every block and make sure every block is connected to this center block. If it's not, then the train is not going to work. So make sure they're all connected up. When you hover over it, it should look like this. So just make sure when you hover over it, every single block is connected. I believe that is all connected up there now. So from here, what we can do is we can go back inside here and make sure that you're happy with your train. You can also add seats to it and stuff if you want to. Go into here and assemble train. And boom, our train has now been made. So if we want to, we can go in here, we can right click on the controls, and we can just go ahead and drive it manually. But if we want to, we can go ahead and get this thing called a train schedule, I believe it's called. And we can go ahead and write the schedule. So to write a schedule, we're going to actually need another train station. So let me put a train station over here. So there we go. I can place this one here. I'm just going to name this one Station 2 just to keep it organized. And now what I can do with the train schedule is I can go ahead and I can program it. So I can add an action. So travel to station. You can do actions, so you can do update, schedule title, limit max speed. You can basically scroll through them. And then here we can go ahead and we can select the station we want it to go to. So let's say we want it to go to station 2, I believe we called it. Check, and then we can change how long it waits for. And then we can add another action. Get it back to track station. We can go ahead and enter that there. Now if I go ahead and give this to the Blaze, he should go ahead and do what I've just asked him. So it should go round here, it should wait for 5 seconds, it should come back to this one here. And should wait 5 seconds. And nice, it's coming back. So that's like the base premise of setting up trains. There's way more you can do. There's like a lot of cool things you can do. You can do cross rails. You've got like track observers and stuff. But that's kind of the basics there. But yeah, that's my basic guide to the Create mod. So if you enjoyed the video and found it useful, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to see more about the train stuff, or you want me to make another video a bit more advanced about this stuff, then let me know and I'll go ahead and do that. Thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one.